Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. It's Gabby and Janet here with the A Team, and today we'll have a special guest, Amanda.
Hola.
So stay tuned.
Hey everyone, so welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And like Gabby said, we have Amanda, who is a lender. And we are going to answer a lot of the questions that we've been getting for a lot of people looking to buy a house. So, Amanda, want to say hello?
Hello. Like she said, I'm a lender. I'm the numbers girl. So we always get a ton of questions on my end. So I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Awesome.
of course.
Thank you for being here.
You.
Okay, so like I said, we're going to answer a lot of the questions that we've been getting, that we get a lot of the time. So one of the questions that we get, Amanda, is credit. You know, people always like, hey, where does my credit need to be in order to purchase a home or start the process?
It's such a good question because everyone thinks you have to be at 780, right? It's one of those things where it's like, no, you can actually have a credit score as low as 580 and still get a home. So it opens up that possibility from 580, you can have 620, 660, all the way up obviously until as high as you can go. But 580 is typically the lowest that you'll see. But
580, wow.
The great news is if you're lower than that, we typically will put you on a credit plan, right?
Yeah, and that's like the beautiful thing, because a lot of people always are intimidated to call the lender, but it's actually the number one thing that you should do. Now check your credit, because buying a house is determined on your credit, income, and debt to income ratio, and whoever determines that is the lender. So it is the number one step to do, because it's not like they're gonna hunt you with like phone calls or harassing you. Know, a lot of people are intimidated to call the lender first, but it's actually the most critical step and the first thing that they have to do.
Right, and actually, Amanda actually analyzes where you are in your credit, and she actually puts you in a credit plan. So if you're not ready now, you could be ready in like 2 months to a year, or she'll actually be able to determine that for you. So that's really important.
Yeah, and I always get a lot of people that are discouraged, right? Sometimes because they're like, I don't want you to run my credit. You know, it's going to be a hard hit. I don't want you to do it. And the thing is that you have to know where your numbers are at to buy a house.
Exactly.
Right? And then we can help you get on that plan, even if you're at a 500, even if you're at 579 or 620, like we can help you just get that little increase so that you can go purchase that house.
And that's a great thing that you mentioned it, because you're right. People always call me, and the first thing is like, will she pull my credit, or will the lender pull my credit? And I'm like, yes, we have to.
You have to.
Well, the second question that we get a lot is, how much money do I need to buy a house? You know, down payment, and
Do I need 20% down?
My favorite question. So same thing with you guys. I get that a lot, that I don't want to buy a house because I don't have 20% down. I need to save. And the lowest down payment that is offered is actually 3%. So there's 3%, 3.5, 5%, 10%, 15, 20, and as high as you want to go after that. But 20% is actually for people that want to put that down. You don't necessarily need that. And being able to offer as low as 3%, which is an amazing program. So that one's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's
amazing. Yeah, being able to buy a house with 3% down it's amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and the beauty about buying a house in Arizona is the cost of living, of renting and purchasing, is almost the same. Yeah. It's not like California, where it's kind of like, or other states, sorry, not really California, you know, or other states where, you know, buying a house is kind of like attainable, and a mortgage can be like, I don't know, $3,500 versus $2,000 or $1,800.
Right.
Okay, so in regards to the down payment, can you kind of go over the types of loans that you know are available right now?
Absolutely. So there's all different types of programs that I'm sure everybody gets flooded with on social media and the internet, that, hey, we have this program and that program, but there's certain types of loans that are basically underneath those that are always going to be your foundation. So there's conventional. That's where you hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't have 20% down, because they want to go conventional. Conventional is typically for your higher credit score buyers. There's FHA, which is the most common, most popular for everyone. That one allows you to have a little bit more debt. so your qualification can go higher. So a lot of first-time home buyers, they'll do FHA loans. And then of course we have VA for our amazing veterans, so that is specifically for them, and that is the best loan, right? Because it's 0 down, so as it should be for them. We also have jumbo loans, which means if you go over the amount that the county allows you to purchase, it's going into jumbo. So what that means is typically a loan amount above $510,000 is going to be a jumbo loan. So there's, those loans are great as well. We also do certain ones for self-employed buyers, which are going to be like bank statement programs where you don't have to file your taxes. There's a lot of different programs out there, but those are going to be your 4 main solid actual loans.
Oh wow.
Wow. See why it's really important to talk to the lender first, because she knows all these type of programs and what's best for you.
Yes.
The other thing, well, I mean, we pretty much covered everything when it comes to the closing costs, and then going over the types of loans. We talked about the down payment. You don't need your 20% like many people think. We can go as little as 3%. But the other main question is when it comes to the cost, like the closing costs. Typically, we always tell our clients they can expect an average of 3% of the purchase price to be in the closing cost. So do you agree with me on that?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. So typically it's going to range anywhere between 2.5 to 3%. And we always tell people they want to know their final number up front.
Right.
And it's literally impossible in the mortgage world to know the final number up front. But the great thing about you guys is when you do estimate about 3%, you guys negotiate that, right? So it's something to where you try to get the seller to pay for.
Yeah.
Anything left over would be the buyer's responsibility, but that number starts to formulate about a week or 2 into the process. The reason for that is there's a lot of third-party things, right? So the third parties, we have to get their numbers, and then that's what formulates your closing costs.
Okay, that makes total sense. So there you guys have it. If you need to buy a house, the number 1 step would be talking to a lender.
Talk to the numbers, girl.
Yeah, well, actually talk to us and we'll connect you to her.
Yes, there you go.
So we have a lot of people who always ask us, how to cover closing costs.
Yeah.
So in our world, we typically negotiate the closing costs and have the seller pay for them.
But that's not obviously the case right now, especially with our market still being the way it is. We still encounter a lot of people having to come up with their own closing costs. And so typically before we go under contract or before we even start the process, we like to let our clients know that, hey, you should expect to have around 2.5 to 3% saved up, so that you can prepare to pay for your own closing costs if the case happens to be that. That way you don't lose on your dream home just because you didn't have the 2.5 to 3%. So when it comes to that, like how do you pay for closing costs?
Such a good question. A lot of people want to use, and I'll just say it, mattress money, right? Cash, right? Oh, I have all this cash. I got $10,000 in the safe. That we usually say, hey, we got to pump the brakes. And the reason for that is because everything has to be sourceable in the mortgage world. What that means is we have to see where the money comes from, right? So whenever you're thinking about closing costs, we always say if it's money in the bank, then we're good, we're covered, right? If it's something where you need to pull money out of a 401k or retirement funds, that's totally fine. If you need gifts from family members, that's totally fine, right? But just cash laying around, I always say where my grandma was like, oh, I have cash in my bra. I'm like, no, we cannot do that. We cannot use it. So if you do have cash, I always encourage everybody, tell your lender ASAP in the beginning, especially if it's like 10 grand and that's where all the money is. Have that conversation up front because cash is something that becomes difficult.
Of course. We need paper trails, because other than that, it's going to look very, very suspicious when you just have $10K deposited into your account.
So those are some of the ways to cover the closing costs. And like Gabby said, I know I mentioned earlier, we can negotiate into the seller, but like Gabby said, our market is extremely competitive. And if you see it as a seller's perspective, they're always going to go with the highest offer, where they're going to net more. Phoenix, it's a growing city and it continues to grow. So it's extremely competitive. So it's important to know or have your real expectations on how much does it really cost. I'm not saying it's going to be a lot, but it's totally attainable, especially in a city like Phoenix. in the Phoenix metro area.
And like worst comes to worst, we can always you can always source your down payment, your closing costs from like a gift. So if you have a family member that can help you come up with that money and maybe even lend it to you, but we can source it out as a gift. And that's one way to cover your own closing costs. All right, well, there you have it, guys. We hope that having Amanda here really helped you out. As always, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us.
Yes, and if you're relocating to Arizona or moving or buy, sell, and invest, reach out to us and we'll connect you with Amanda. And there you go, guys.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Thanks.
Bye.